Cat baby, I'm a boss. Carolina barbecue sauce with the slaw. I'm the safe.
From Cameron Indoor Stadium to the Dean Dome, the intensity is about to explode. Welcome to the Blue Blood Rivalry Podcast, your courtside seat to the most anticipated matchup of the NCAA basketball season. Duke, a powerhouse at 27-3, faces a desperate North Carolina team who are clawing their way off the bubble and into the tournament. Can the unranked Tar Heels pull off the upset and shatter Duke's dominance? We're breaking down every angle, every strategy, and every player that will define the legendary rivalry. Get ready. The battle for bragging rights is about to begin.
Everywhere I go, I got that Bull City greeting. That's why they throw the horns when the Bull City season. It's the North Cat, baby, I'm a boss. Carolina barbecue sauce with the slaw. I'm the safe, the cellar, and the vault. I'm the best, the effect, and the cause. I'm the law. It's the North Cat, baby, I'm a boss.
Welcome, gentlemen. This pod is called the Game Day Deep Dive. So that means we're going to dive deep into Duke and Carolina. This is the days before the big game. How's everybody feeling?
Feel good, man.
Doing well, Hosh. Doing well. How are you?
How are you?
You know, I'm excited about this game. I'm excited about the fact that there is chatter. There's not chatter. Carolina is slowly building up some steam. Duke is sitting really, really confident. And I'm hopeful that this Blue Blood rivalry game is a game where the nation gets to see a really good basketball game. So, and games like this historically have been shockers. I mean that, and it just feels like there's a storm coming. Nobody sees it. Nobody's prepared for it. Everybody thinks that we're getting sunny skies on Saturday, and we are. We're gonna have partly cloudy, sunny skies for the Blue Blood rivalry road race. But I'm excited about this weekend. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm stoked, man. Carolina's playing the best basketball we've played all season right now, so it's definitely something to be excited about.
Yeah,
I'm excited too, Huss. I think Will's right. Carolina's the basketball right now, and obviously Duke has hit a stride. Even though we're talking about unranked teams, both teams are playing really well against the competition, and they are blowing everybody out.
Yeah. And that's a fact. You know, Carolina is 20-11 now. Will, there was a time we were talking, I think we were at 13-11. Is that correct?
Yep. I think it was 13-10, maybe. I think we've won 6 in a row. So I think it was like 14-11, maybe.
Yeah, but 20-11 doesn't look as bad as what it looked like it was gonna look like.
No, not at all. I mean, you and I talked about it. We talked about it a few weeks ago, man, where we broke down the remaining 7 games for the Heels, and we looked at how this season would unfold. And you and I each thought 3-3, 4-2, something like that. And I mean, I don't know what he said to get them ready for these last games, but they're playing well. And I was watching SportsCenter the other day, and kind of one of those teams that everybody's mentioned. I mean, even if we don't make the tournament this year, which we need some help, I feel like, but this is a team right now that you don't want to play if your tournament hopes are on the line.
Yeah, those last 6 games, I thought 3-3, 4-2.
Yeah.
But let's look back. Yeah, NC State 97-73, solid win by UNC. Yep. Virginia 81-66. Florida State 96-85. Miami 92-73, and Virginia Tech Tuesday night 91-59. I mean, these look like
everybody, man.
Yeah, these look like Duke scores. Daryl, what are you thinking about those scores?
I'm gonna kindly remind you guys, as you told me all year, like these are bad teams, right? I think though, I do believe that if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago what those scores would look like, I would have thought even if Carolina won all of those games, that they would be much closer games. And I think it's impressive and it's good to see that Carolina is blowing these teams out. And we talked about it, right? Drake Powell in the starting lineup he's made an incredible difference, man. And I think that Hubert Davis finally just letting go and letting the talent shine has rubbed off on the entire team because you watch. I mean, even Van Allen Lubin is playing so much better. These guys are starting to click, and it's clicking at the right time.
You even look at a guy like Cade Tyson, who I've been kind of shitting on all season, and how he was brought in to be something that he just hasn't been. And I get he's only playing 6, 7, 8 minutes a game, but I mean he's had a couple of big threes in each of these games that have kind of sparked that momentum shift, because these last 4 or 5 games have been pretty close for the first 5 to 7 minutes, and then he comes off the bench, or you get Van Allen Lubin with a putback dunk or something like that, and then we just take off from there. And
Okay,
Daryl,
Will, I got a question for you.
okay,
I'm going to position UNC as a bubble team. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. What I want to know is what factors contribute to this precarious standing, and would a quad one win against Duke make the NCAA tournament selection committee give Carolina a large entry? What are your thoughts?
I think I mean, it's just, I think shifting around the lineup, like Daryl pointed out, there is the reason we've kind of turned the tide, so to speak, on this season. And I do think the one thing, if you look at, I follow that Joe Lenardi's bracketology and everything, and if the one thing that's missing is a quad one win. We played teams like Florida. We've got one of the strongest strength of schedules in the country. But we're missing that quad one win. And I think a win against Duke and then a run in the ACC tournament. Again, we're one of those teams right now. We're getting it done defensively. Against Virginia Tech, we forced 8 turnovers and 17 trips in the first half. So, like, we're doing it on all sides of the ball. And I think that would be the catalyst that could push us into. Nobody's saying we're going to get a high seed, but I think we could go out and do some damage as a 10 or 11 seed in the tournament.
Okay, Daryl, let's talk about Duke basketball. 27-3. Duke has maintained consistency throughout 2024, 2025. But is this really a 27-3 season? If Duke was in the SEC, what would their record be, Daryl?
I think if Duke was in the SEC, they might have a couple more losses, but I mean, I would still even call them 25-5 right now. I think this is a really good Duke team. I think they're comparable to the Auburn team that's in the SEC. Right. And you're gonna have games where you play really good competition, very similar to how Duke played Clemson, very similar to how Auburn just played Texas A&M, and you're gonna fall short. It's college basketball. It's bound to happen. But I do think this team is talented enough to be one of the top teams in the SEC, not the best team in the SEC, because I think they're the best team in the country.
Okay, so why?
My question
I mean,
would
are
be,
you just no, Daryl. Are you just talking?
the numbers speak for themselves, Hassan. We could talk about these unranked teams all that we want, but the depth on this team is it's unimaginable. And I've said this numerous times that if John Shire, I'll be super transparent, if John Shire can't win with this team, then what team can he win with? And I know again, it's college basketball. The tournament is a one and done type of deal. Any team can lose on any given night, but this is going to be the most talented team I can see 10 years into the future, 20 years into the future. This is still the most talented team that Duke may have for the next 20 years, but definitely John Shire in his tenure, this is the most talented team he will ever have.
I think that if Shire doesn't win with this roster, I mean, we all heard coming into this season, this is the best recruiting class of all time, the most number five-star recruits on a recruiting class of all time, and so on and so forth. And I think it's gonna shift the way people think about coaching and 5 stars and everything if he doesn't win a national championship with this lineup. Because I mean, you can have all the talent in the world, which y'all have right now, but if he can't go out and even, I mean, let's say he gets upset or second weekend of the tournament, right? Like it's gonna change the way a lot of people think about recruiting and such.
Yeah, I compare it to John Calipari pretty much anywhere he's gone so far, and especially at Kentucky though. It's one and dones, the best recruiting class, the most talented team, the most talented players, but John Calipari only won one national championship.
Yep.
And that changed the way that a lot of people viewed him and his coaching pedigree because while he can recruit, he's a hell of a recruiter. Nobody can take that away. Can you coach the talent? And that's the question. Can you coach the talent?
Look at Cal at Arkansas right now, man. He's still got all those five. All those guys went with him to Arkansas, right? They're not even going to make the tournament this year. They're bad.
Yeah, and it's not anything new for him as far as
Yeah.
just not being able to coach the talent, man. And now he's in a new place, new venue, not the aura of Kentucky, and not a blue blood program. And I think that that's shown with Calipari. But I think John Shire has to prove this season that he can at least get to the Final Four. But I really think it's national championship or bust.
You know what, Daryl? I hear you talking. Well, when I look at the good teams in college basketball, Auburn, we know they're good. Houston, we know they're fast up the court. Tennessee, we know they're fast up the court. Florida, 25-4 in the SEC, we know they're good. But I'm looking at this team coached by St. John's.
Yeah.
I'm looking at St. John's, right? I'm looking at a team like St. John's, and any basketball guy, and I'm not going to say who told me, they said Rick Pitino took 3 and 4 star guys who are older with experience. You've got Aaron Scott, senior, Kadri Richmond, 6'6" grad student, Sadiku Abin Ayo, 6'6" junior, Devion Smith, senior, Simeon Wilker, senior, Vince Iwachuku, 7'1".
We're in trouble when you got a bunch of names that you can't pronounce, Hassan. Those guys,
from West Africa, right? Junior, Jaden Glover, freshman, right? But my point is, St. John's has 3 guys over 6'10". They have a 7-foot. They got a Kaman Mocker, 7'2", 230 pounds. They got Ruben Prey, 6'11", 230, right? They've got Zuby Ejiofor, 6'9", 250 pounds, right? So I know St. John's is not getting the TV hype. It doesn't have the ESPN love. But I think this guy, Rick Pitino, is building something pretty special, right? He's got the size. He's got he's got the upperclassmen, the men. And I'm worried about you, Daryl. I'm worried about you. You're talking national championship, but we talk about the SEC, but I'm worried about Houston. I'm worried about St. John's. I'm worried about Michigan State. I'm worried about Iowa State. I'm worried in conference about Clemson. Thoughts,
you nailed that right on the head. I mean, you nailed it right on the head. Michigan State's always dangerous in the tournament, and they're just as big, man. They've got at least 4 guys that are over 6'10", 2 6'11s, and a 7-footer. So I mean, I don't think Duke is seen teams with the ACC is down. We've been talking about it all season, and the size especially isn't there in the ACC right now outside of Clemson. And I'm worried for Duke. Yeah, they play great defensively, but I don't think that a guy like Con Knipple, who's shown at times that he's going to take a night off every once in a while, shooting wise, is gonna get it done when he's going up against a team that's bigger, faster, physical, whatever.
Yeah, and Will, I'm worried about these big guys laying down on Malawak. I mean, Malawak, Daryl, I don't know how. I think
But
he's an NBA player, but I don't know how seasoned he is for big men battles down low. What are your thoughts on that, Daryl?
I agree. I've said this throughout the year that Maluach really is not the enforcer. It's Malik Brown,
But,
right?
yeah, but he's
Transfer.
hurt.
yeah, and he's
Yeah,
got to
and
get
so and so
shoulder.
I've said it. I think that Malik Brown needs to be active for this team to really propel to that next level because you're right. There are teams out there with size who match that size that Duke has that not a lot of teams in the country have, but there are a few teams that have that. And I think that in these games that we're gonna see with St. John's or the Clemsons, Will, you mentioned Michigan State being a very big team. Duke needs their enforcer. They're gonna need
Yeah,
Malik Brown
yeah.
to be healthy. But Kaman Malawach is still an incredible player. He's learning the game, but I wouldn't call him the enforcer. He is long, he is talented, he is gonna grow, but I do not think that he's gonna be the key piece. The X factor is Malik Brown. And I think if Malik Brown gets healthy, all this noise you guys are talking about is irrelevant.
What's his injury report look like though? Because last I saw for this weekend, he's a game time decision. I mean, that's a dislocated shoulder is not something you can just quickly bounce back from,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. The teams I'm talking about aren't the team that we're playing this weekend. I'm not really too concerned about Malik Brown being back for that.
No, but if they,
I
what I'm
think
saying though, where I'm going with that is if they rush him back because he wants to play in the rivalry, is he going to re-aggravate it? Is something going to happen? Or are they going to hold him out and then you worry about regaining that momentum? Because coming off of an injury where you're worried about tweaking it again or hurting it again or separating it again or whatever, that's not an easy thing to do, man. We've all played sports. We know how it is.
yeah, I completely agree, Will. I'm hoping that they do what they've done with the rest of the unranked teams we play and allow them to sit. I mean,
Okay.
they don't need Malik Brown to beat Carolina, in my opinion. I think this is going to be a much closer game than the first matchup. It's at the Dean Dome. Carolina's got momentum, but they don't need Malik Brown in this game. If win, lose or draw, sacrificing Malik Brown right now is not worth the long term goal.
Fair enough.
All right, Will,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a real question.
Okay.
Do you have a chance this weekend? Well, that's the first question. Just wait. And who must perform great? Give me the three players that have to deliver. How many points do they have to deliver for you to win? Just give me three. Don't tell me all five. Give me your three.
And I think we do. I know Daryl over there is gonna laugh because you and I both said we had a chance the last game and we all watched how that one went down. But the way we're playing right now, Carolina's shooting over 50% in 10 of the last 11 halves of basketball, man. This is the first time in program history that we've had 5 players in double figures for 4 straight games. So we're playing better than we've played in a long time. I think the guys that you're going to need to step up, man. I think RJ and Ian Jackson go without saying. I think each of those guys need to have over 15 points. I think if RJ senior night, I'd like to see him have 20 or 25 personally. But if he has 15 and we have another 4 guys in double figures, I think we stand as good of a chance as any. And then outside of those two, I'm going to go with Jalen Withers. I'd like to see him hit double digits. He's been hitting some big threes. He's pulled down a few clutch rebounds. Um, I think that outside of the answers that everybody's expecting, I think that's a guy that we need to step up. We need him to hit big shots in crucial moments of the game on Saturday night.
Okay, Will, are you familiar? And Daryl, this is for you too. Are you familiar with 2022?
Yeah.
Okay, so in 2022, Duke went to Carolina and dismantled.
Beat the shit out of us.
Yes. Daryl, are you kind of feeling like the wins are the kind of the same? And then March, a month later, Hubert Davis just dumps his bench, puts his guys on the floor, and the result was 95-81 in Cameron Indoor. And Coach K's retirement party became a funeral, Daryl. Why can't this weekend be the same thing? You tell me why, Daryl.
I think that this team is way more talented, right, than that team that we're talking about. I also believe that John Shire and Hubert Davis have played each other enough now where it really comes down to the talent on the floor and less about the coaching. And I think that at this moment in this season, while Carolina is playing really well down the stretch of the season, they just aren't good enough. And I don't think they have enough talent to compete. I don't think their big men are good enough. And I just don't think that if you're comparing, these two teams, it's like apples and oranges, really. And so while I think Carolina's playing a lot better, think that it's going to be a good game because it's in the Dean Dome. I just think that the talent prevails at the end of the day in this matchup. And I could be wrong, but and will for the record, I do respect this take on
Okay.
your this take for this game. But
Okay.
last game it was a joke. This game I do think could be a close game. I do think Carolina has a chance to win. I did not think they had a chance to win in the first game, but momentum is everything, especially in March. And right now, as we saw in 2022, right? But right now, I think that this team is just so much more talented than Carolina, and they're
But
coming out with fire.
that's what
So
the
Carolina,
Dukies said in 2022. That's what they said at the funeral. Because I'm
Yep.
gonna call Coach K's last day on the job a funeral. Because that's what it was, right? 100 players came to the Washington Duke,
Yep.
walked into Cameron Indoor Stadium. They were slapping backs, laughing, drunk as anything, and they didn't think Carolina had a chance. That same year in 2022, both teams reached the Final Four in New Orleans. Dukies flew all their private jets, rented places for the weekend because they said that was just lucky. There was no way they can beat us again, and it happened again.
So
you were at the.
Daryl,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Will.
to counter your point, man, I'm going to ask you a question. In the last 10 games, how many of those games has Duke had the better and more talented team? I'd be willing to say all 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. And do you know what the record in the last 10 games is? Carolina's six
And
and four. Carolina's 6-4. So you can't tell me that coaching means more than talent in this rivalry, man.
the last 10 games
Numbers
for
don't lie.
who?
I'm saying that head to head in the rivalry, the
Oh,
last 10
okay, I got
games,
you. Got you. Got you. Got
y'all
you.
have,
Okay.
y'all have 100% had the better roster 10 out of 10 times.
Okay. I mean, I think also that you guys have had more experience on those rosters that we're talking about,
So now you
and
want
I
to
think
walk the point back, though. You said talent means more.
well, you're right, but I've also mentioned over the course of the season, even with Clemson, that more like senior teams in college basketball, that's very important. I'm not going to take it away. If yes, I do think when all else is equal, talent is gonna trump everything. But I do think in college basketball, especially on your home court, that seniority matters. And I
Okay.
think in this game, really the only player that you're looking at with that kind of experience, in my opinion, is RJ Davis. Obviously, a super senior.
Same.
And
I mean, you guys have Proctor. He's played in the rivalry a few times, right? Like there's
and
a handful of guys on each lineup that if Jalen Washington's been there 2-3 years now.
yeah, and if I were gonna give Carolina the edge, it might be on experience. So I'm not gonna sit here and poo-poo them. I'm not gonna act like they cannot win. I don't think they're talented enough to win. I think
Fair enough.
that,
Fair enough.
I don't think it's close enough. I think in those other games that we're talking about, Carolina's guys with experience were still very talented. We're talking about Armando Bacot. 2022, we're talking about Caleb Love, obviously RJ Davis. In this game, they're going to need those guys with experience to step up. I just think that Duke is way too talented for them to prevail, for Carolina to prevail.
Okay. We'll see.
I guess I'll ask you, Will, while we're sitting here. Um, who do you think is gonna, you talked about Con Knipple.
Yeah.
What do you think is gonna be Duke's shortcoming when it comes to this game for them to even be able to lose the game?
I think Malik Brown,
Daryl, Daryl, I mean, the arrogance of that statement, that was pretty arrogant. Would you agree, Daryl?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's calculated arrogance. It's what can you say? I mean, we got
That's
out
an
rebounded
arrogant.
last
Like,
game, and
what can
Will's brought it to my
Carolina
attention.
do to
Will
win
has
this
brought it to
game?
here's my thing, Hassan. Will has brought it to my attention, man. We got out rebounded last game, and we still won by almost 20. I'm just wondering, what do we have to do less of for them to win? That's it. I'm just trying to figure it out, man.
Listen.
I mean, we shot 30% in the first half of that game. With the way we're playing right now, that's not going to happen. We're not going to fall into the big.
That is disgusting. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if Carolina gets Ian Jackson rolling, Seth Trimble rolling, Drake Powell, RJ rolling, and RJ has the ball in his hands, like I said, the last couple of games, have you noticed something, Will?
Ooh, with RJ?
Yeah.
Putting the ball in his hands more.
Okay, what did I say 8 games ago?
Run him at point.
Run him at the freaking point. Pull Elliot Cadeau off the bench, right?
Yeah.
Because RJ can create off the dribble, off the bounce, right? Yeah. I think that's a different approach, right? Now, when you put RJ as your guard, you open up the door for Drake Powell to play, right? And you reduce Elliot Cadeau's minutes because he's just not doing enough, right? And you put Ian at the 2. This is the lineup that we talked about, okay? And I think if you do that with RJ at the point, Seth at the 3, or Seth at the 2, Ian Jackson at the 3, Drake at the power forward, and then Allen Lubin or Dylan Withers playing wherever he plays, I think Carolina has a chance. I think they do. And when you look at the score of Virginia Tech, 91-59, that's a blowout, right? Yeah. That's not a team, Daryl, that you could say, what does Carolina have to do? What could they do to win, right? They have players, okay? And they can win this game.
Right there, Haas, is going to be that Duke stumbles. If
Carolina's doing what Duke's done all season. I mean, congratulations for finally getting a couple of those under your belt, but we're just beating the shit out of unranked teams, as we talked about. So Carolina looks better. Congratulations. But I still need to know what they can do to beat this Duke team. That's it. That's it.
Duke Carolina fans, download Duke Carolina, the Blue Blood Rivalry film on iTunes or Apple TV or wherever you get your VOD downloads.
Hey, Queen. Queen, you know you my guy, right? I'm always pulling for you. Night, when you step on the court, I step on the court too. And we in it.
There's only 2 games that matter. It's the North Carolina game at Duke and the Duke game that's at North Carolina.
When we wake up on game day, there's a knot in my stomach. We've been up since 6 a.m. this morning watching recorded Duke Carolina games.
I watched the Rivers shot
about 15 times.
Yeah.
Rivers on his own. Yes, at the buzzer.
We're here for the Duke game. And it is 10 hours and 9 minutes until game time.
The Blue Devils win 85-84.
Nothing better than North Carolina and Duke. It is the best rivalry in all of college basketball. Hall of Fame coaches, great players, and usually so much at stake.
And that's it. Carolina's won it. The fans have as much to do with the rivalry being great as the players and the coaches.
It's 5 hours before game time.
Well, there's no question that the rivalry is there every day in our community.
Can you imagine what it would be like around here if people didn't have it? It would be terrifying.
We are 30 minutes away from tip-off.
It's one of the most exciting events you can be a part of, and I still say it's not the biggest rivalry in college basketball. It's the biggest rivalry in all of sport, bar none.
It's game time!
Prepare for Duke and North Carolina to face off like never before. Blue Blood Rivalry 5K! 5K! Sign up one, sign up all. Students, families, alumni, locals, non-locals, everyone! And you don't even need to be from UNC or Duke. because we have a Party Crasher division. Party Crasher! Come state, week, UVA, anyone, and join the fun. Crash their party! But the real battle is between the Blue Devils and the Tar Heels. Before it's settled on the court, it'll be settled on the race course. But there's more. There will be a special basketball dribble division where each participant will travel the race course dribbling a basketball. Dribbling a basketball? Hell yeah! That's cool! So sign up now! Attention all racers, prepare for the event of a lifetime. The race course will certainly decide our champions.
Let's talk about this, Daryl. How will Duke start handle the atmosphere, the pressure, the Dean Dome, and a bunch of pissed off Carolina fans, right? That all they want right now to change the whole narrative of the season, that all the Carolina dude has to do is win this game. Like, how does Cooper Flagg deal with that? How does Cooper Flagg deal with the whole nation watching him on Saturday night, right? That last game is the game. That's the ratings game.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I agree. And I think Cooper Flagg does what he's done all year in the biggest moments, in the biggest games, in the biggest games, he has played his best basketball this season. I think, you even look at, Illinois wasn't super talented, but he did everything on the court that night in Madison Square Garden, and they beat him by 40 points. So he wasn't in the game for a lot of playing time. But Madison Square Garden, he steps up. The first UNC game, he comes out firing and gets his team going. I think that he's proven all year that when the moment is brightest, the lights are brightest and the moment is big, he's gonna step up. And I think the rest of the guys just follow. They go at the beat of his drum. And Cooper Flagg leads this team. Con Knipple is probably the player that I'm most concerned about as far as their quote unquote stars are concerned. But I think Tyrese Proctor and Cooper Flagg have, their best games of the year. Now Cooper scored 42 against Notre Dame. I'm not saying he's coming out to drop 50, but I think his all around.
He does not drop 50.
No, I'm not saying he's going to drop 50, but I don't want it to seem like I'm saying he's going to score the most points he scored all season. I want to be very clear. He's not dropping 50, but it wouldn't shock me if this guy has a triple double, man. You heard it here first.
Couple of things, man. I think that Cooper Flagg's going to Cooper Flagg, right? That's not the guy you need to worry about. It's shutting down everybody else, because if Cooper Flagg's going to beat you regardless. The thing is that if
I'm not so sure about that, but we can have that conversation.
If we give, let's say Cooper Flagg has 20-25 points and you get Con Knipple with 7, that's a win in my book. Like that's fine. The other thing is that not having a guy like Malik Brown hurts Duke defensively, and that's where he's a brick wall. Cadeau threw the ball away and handed it off to him 6 times in the first half the last game. And if you don't have that to slow down that offense, it's going to be a longer night defensively for Duke. And that momentum that you guys got off every stop that he made right at half court when he'd meet Cadeau, that's something you can't replicate. The other thing too is that Duke, we talked about it week in and week out on the pod, is that Duke hasn't played a meaningful game in how long? I mean, they haven't played it. They lose. They
played Carolina the last game.
I mean, that wasn't even a meaningful game then. We're talking, if Duke loses, it's been so long and Duke's so good, and ESPN's going to make sure that Cooper Flagg gets his airtime and yada, 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 that if Duke loses on Saturday, there's still a 1 seed in the tournament. Carolina in the Dean Dome, senior night for RJ, a bunch of pissed off Carolina fans like Haas pointed out. And we're playing it's just essentially a playing game.
So are you saying this isn't a meaningful game for Duke then? Because you just said the last game wasn't a meaningful one.
I'm saying Duke hasn't played a meaningful game since the beginning of the season, since you guys beat Auburn. And Carolina's the last 6 games have been, you have to win or you're done. Your season's over.
I just think the game in the Dean Dome is meaningful regardless of situation.
Okay, guys, I want to move into NCAA tournament implications. Then I want to go back to Cooper Flag and I want to talk about this guy, kid from Maine. What does this kid mean to American basketball, right? And the importance of a Cooper Flag having a big night on the main stage, what that could do for the NBA. So I want to start with tournament implications for both teams. Daryl, a win just keeps you where you are, second, first seed, East, West, in the East. Okay. A loss, what does that do to you? And Will, you can follow that up. A win, what does that do to you? Does it tip the scale and get you in a tournament? Or do you still have to go show it again in the ACC tournament? Daryl, talk to me.
I think with Auburn losing to Texas A&M, I believe that a um, a one, excuse me, a win would propel his team to the overall number one seed. I think a loss probably knocks this team down to the lowest tier, the fourth number one pending ACC tournament play. I think that this team has done enough throughout the season to prove that they deserve a number one seed, regardless of what happens in this rivalry that everybody knows can go either way, and it's always how season like Will mentioned earlier. It goes one way or the other. It doesn't matter about talent. Overall, this is a game that, in my opinion, doesn't really matter as far as Duke seeding is concerned because they're going to be a one, regardless, pending, like I said, pending ACC tournament play. So I don't think that this game is really that much of a factor. But if they win, they're the overall number one seed with Auburn losing this week, and I think that might be big for the team just for a confidence boost going into the tournament.
Okay. Will, talk about your team, tournament implications. Are there any implications or is this just a feel good session?
No, I think there are huge implications, and that's why I think the momentum is going to be there on Saturday, more so than usual. If we win, I think essentially this could be a play-in game where, I mean, we've been looking for that quad one win. If you look at the bracketology, pretty much everybody's got us as that first four out because of the lack of a quad one win, and this is it. That's the only opportunity you're going to have the rest of the season, right?
So let me ask you a question. So does SMU and Louisville get into the tournament?
SMU, no. Louisville, absolutely. I think right now the ACC's got 3 teams in.
Okay. All right. So you think if you guys get this last win, 14 and 6 in the conference, 21 and 11, and you jump SMU, or assuming SMU doesn't win their last game, you feel like you get in, SMU does not.
Yeah,
the same exact conference record.
The thing about SMU is
and SMU has more overall wins than you do.
They do, but they're 0 in I think 18 against quad 1 and quad 2, and the committee looks at that, right? So if you can't beat tournament teams, they're not going to put you in the tournament. Carolina is 1 in I think 9 against quad 1, but we're undefeated against everybody else. So, or 1 in 11, I guess it would be, but we're undefeated against everybody else. So this win against Duke, I think, propels us. If we can win a couple of games in the ACC tournament as well, I think we're in the tournament, no problem. If we lose and we lose bad, we're done. We're out.
Okay, so here's what I think. I think Carolina needs to get to. They need the Duke win, and if they get to the finals of the ACC tournament, they're definitely in. If they get to the semifinal with a Duke win on Saturday, they're possibly in.
Yeah, you need some. I feel like you would need some help. I feel like Oklahoma is one of those teams ahead of us that would have to lose early. Texas would have to lose early. Some of these other teams, you just hope the teams that are supposed to win their conference tournaments at that point actually win their conference tournaments, right? So
I think also I believe that even if Carolina does lose, and Will, I think you're right. They need to keep it close. But if they lose, it's a close game. They go into the ACC tournament and they happen to run into Clemson and run into Louisville and beat both of those teams. I think those are important games for them too to propel them into the tournament. I mean, the NCAA can say what they want to say, but the name still means something, right? And I think if they can get a couple of those wins, then it gives the committee a slight case to be able to argue and say, yeah, they showed us towards the end of the season that they were a better team than we saw for most of the season. They played a tough strength of schedule. They played highly ranked teams, even though they didn't beat a lot of them. They've played them and they played a lot of them close, and they got better towards the end of the year. And so while they might really put them in because UNC is UNC, there's an argument to be had and to be made for why they should be in the tournament if they can beat a couple of those teams in the ACC tournament.
Well, Daryl, we've seen in years past that I know you guys have both seen it as if I have, and that the committee more than just about any other sport in basketball will say, what are you doing lately? What have you done lately? How are you playing right now? So if we lose to Duke, we lose by, I mean, let's say 4, because you guys go down and hit some free throws at the end or whatever it is. I still think we have a chance. I do. It's a long shot, man. I think we're on the outside looking in at that point. But
Yeah, I agree. And I think if they beat Duke, in my opinion, if they beat Duke, they're in. I
yeah,
think,
I would say so.
unless they go out to ACC and just lay an egg and lose in the first game, then I could see again another argument being made. But they come out and beat Duke, I really think that they're in the tournament because it's proving that they are a much better team right now than they have been over the course of the season.
Well, if you look at that 2022 season, we lost 13 games, right? We went out, we beat you guys. We ended up beating y'all. We made a run in the ACC tournament. They put us in. We were an 8 seed, I think, in that tournament, and ended up making a run.
It was something like that. Yep.
It wasn't like we were very good before that insane run at the end of the season either. And the committee has shown, man, that if you play well down the stretch and you go out, and we keep talking about beating the bad teams that are in front of you, but we're not just beating them. We're doing the same thing Duke's been all season, right? Like it's
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is eerily similar to that 2022 season where Carolina's just hitting their stride and they're starting to have players step up and their vets are starting to look good and starting to click. And I think that you're right. I mean, we could see Hubert Davis, right, was on the hot seat in 2022. Well, there were conversations about, is this the guy that should have taken over for Roy? And those same conversations were being had throughout the entire season this year, up until the point that he got the contract extension. And now it's looking like you said, like 2022 all over again.
I think that those conversations are funny, man. With Hubert's extension, we talked about it last week. Where I think I always love. It was the same. I feel like the people complaining about Hubert's being the guy and Hubert's extension, whatever, the same people who screamed fire Roy because he didn't call a timeout down the stretch, right? Like it's like these fans are fanatics. That's what it's short for, and sometimes you get some chuckleheads who just won't shut up.
Yeah,
Okay,
LeBron
guys.
James said it. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Haas.
Okay, guys, listen, I want to switch the topic a little bit. I want to talk about this guy named Cooper Flag. Okay. And I want to talk about what he means to American basketball. Okay. And everybody knows that since 2012, NBA domestic viewership has declined 48%, right? And meanwhile, the NBA's global viewership has been increasing because they have the likes of a Luka Doncic. They have all these European and foreign players. And the one thing that we learn from this is that diversity matters, right? And diversity is not ethnic diversity, but it's geographic identities as well. And a guy like Cooper Flag from Maine, being this star of college basketball, the number one player in America, how important is he to NBA ratings, to that guy that lives in Maine, that guy that lives in Nebraska, that guy that's on a ranch in Texas? Can we talk about the significance of Cooper Flag and how much the NBA must want Cooper Flag to have the game that Daryl wants him to have? Let's have that conversation, guys.
Yeah, I think that Cooper Flag is probably the most marketable white American player, American born player since Larry Bird. And he's electric. It's almost like I would compare it to Zion coming out of Duke. I think that when he gets to the NBA, every game that he plays, especially that first game, right, it's going to be on national television. And I believe Cooper Flag, he's going to be he's going to at least be a top 10 player as far as marketability in his first couple seasons. I don't think it takes long for that because I think the NBA wants it and the NBA needs it. And so you've got this guy who can do it all and he's white, right? And when was the last time we really saw a guy coming out of college, not from Europe, not out of the G League, but from college? That's
But Daryl, I don't think it's that he's white. I think it's that he's American.
American white. Yeah, I mean American born.
Right, because we have Europeans, right?
Absolutely.
And they're doing it. Luka Doncic is one of the best players in the NBA, but he's not an American.
American born, yes, white guy, yes, absolutely. The American part is where we should put the emphasis, but American and white, right? Because we need both of those. We have plenty of American brothers in the league, but he's American and he's white, which is crazy for the marketing of Cooper Flag, and the NBA is going to use that to their advantage. Now, there's potential he might go to Utah. You can't get any whiter in the NBA than Utah. I don't and the crazy thing is that even though Utah is a small market team, the NBA could do so much if this guy goes to Utah, man. They're gonna sell out every single game because those people in Utah connect with Cooper Flag, right?
Because he's an American.
Right. Absolute. Well, guess what? So is Jordan Clarkson. But guess what? He's not white. White American. It's you got to put it together because both of them are just as important because we've seen a lot of brothers from America. It's been a long time since we saw an American born white boy from Maine in the NBA really doing numbers.
Okay, Will, I want your spin on this.
Okay.
Talk to us, Will.
I don't know if the Utah thing's necessarily a thing like you think it is, man. Kyle Filipowski's there and he's Mormon, right? Like it's not like a Mormon going back to Utah is kind of
Filipowski sucks, and I'm a Duke guy.
He does. I'm not taking away, but like even the Lakers have Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect, right? Like I do think that part of where you gain viewership is with kids, right? Kids drag their parents to games, make them buy the merch, whatever. And so I do feel like a guy like Cooper Flag would help the NBA tremendously because if you get a bunch of short little white kids coming from small communities, Maine, whatever, anywhere. It doesn't even have to be Maine. It could be from anywhere. And you get a bunch of little white kids seeing more white players in the NBA. They're
white American players. Let's get it right.
Absolutely. But white Americans that they can relate to from a sense.
Correct.
That they can point to their parents and say, I want his jersey, I want to watch his game. And then you do increase ratings slowly. I think the ratings issue for the NBA is I'm only a casual NBA fan, and I think that they got a bunch of shit they have to work on, but that's a separate conversation entirely. But I do think from a diversity standpoint, white American players in the NBA draw white American views. And that's that's the bottom line.
And here and this is my point. And I brought this topic up because it's not really about ethnicity, right? Because the NBA has Caucasian players.
Yeah.
But it's about identity. It's about commonality. Yep. It's about connection, right? So can this kid identify with Luka Doncic? That kid in Serbia can, that kid in Eastern Europe can, that kid in Europe can, right?
Yep.
But our kids here in America, they need Cooper Flag, right? For the game of basketball, because every group of people want to see someone they can identify excelling. And that's why diversity and inclusion, in my opinion, is important, because it brings more people
For sure.
under the umbrella and it gets more people involved. And I'm using basketball as an example because it's tilted the other way, right?
Just in life, man. That's how it works, and it gets more people. Anytime you have more eyes and different backgrounds and different viewpoints, you efficiency, productivity, everything. The more eyes you have coming from different backgrounds and everything, the better we all are, right? So I agree.
Right. And if you look at NBA ratings, right? NBA ratings are tanking in America. They are growing globally, right? Because the NBA is getting players from Africa. They're getting players from Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, right? And they're, and if they could, and there was enough talent in Asia, they would get them from Asia and South America and Brazil. That grows the game globally. But if you miss out on a specific demographic in America, that demographic's not going to tune in.
Well, and so what I'll say, sorry to cut you off, Haas, but like if simply getting these guys in the NBA isn't going to be good enough.
No, you need them to be a star.
They need to be stars. You have to, and even the NBA is really good at picking their players that are their superstars and just shoving them down our throats, right? Like that's one thing that they're good at. They market the individual and less the team. And if they can, outside of the Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls, the Heat, whatever, they market the individual over the team. And if these guys can get in the NBA and do anything, the NBA needs to jump on hammering Cooper Flag down everybody's throats, even more than ESPN.
They will. They will. There's no question about it. And I think that's why I compared it to Zion, because coming out of college, out of Duke, Zion, they did just like you said. They're gonna shove them down your throat, right? They're gonna make sure that this is the next franchise NBA superstar before he even steps foot on the court. And I think Cooper Flag is going to be amplified in that regard times 100, because you talked about Dalton Connect, you talk about Austin Reeves, but like we said, you have to be good, really,
But
for
even a
them
guy like
to.
Chet Holmgren, they're missing an opportunity there. Yeah, I get you've got SGA in Oklahoma City, but they're the number one seed in the really tough Western Conference. And
Yeah.
Chet Holmgren's a large
But
reason.
He
here's the
stays
thing,
hurt
Will.
though. I think if he was healthy, I think if Chet were healthy, they would market him differently. But he stays hurt. I mean, he just got back, I believe, from a foot injury, and then he just sprained his ankle and came back. And if Chet were to stay healthy, they would definitely hammer that one as well. Out in Oklahoma City, absolutely.
So let's get back to this blue blood rivalry game.
Okay.
You go to Duke, you go to Carolina exclusively to get that Saturday night, a month apart, to play before the entire country, where the whole country is looking at the rivalry. This is the best platform to launch a brand. And I think for a Cooper Flag, for the NBA, this is an opportunity that Cooper Flag has to show up on, because the eyeballs are going to be there. And this is a chance for him to put the whole Cooper Flag brand into overdrive, right? And the money could get so high that there's no way that he could even think about staying in college, because the need for a Cooper Flag, and you talk about Chet Holmgren, Dalton Connect, they don't have the national acclaim potentially of a Cooper Flag. And so I think that Saturday night, Cooper Flag has some pressure. Cooper Flag needs to show up, and Cooper Flag can save NBA domestic ratings with a massive performance. And I'm sticking to it.
And he will. Just give it. Just wait, baby. The show hadn't even started yet. Just give it some time.
Yeah, I just think I don't know if Cooper Flag's going to be the ratings horse that everybody thinks he is, especially in Charlotte or Utah or wherever they're talking about him going. But I think that he'll have a big game. I do. I think it's just that if Carolina's going to win, they need to shut down everybody else.
Let me ask.
All right, guys.
I'm curious before we wrap it up. Will, do you think that he won't be the ratings guy that we think he will be because he won't be good, or if he's good, he still won't be that?
No, I think the NBA ratings, we could talk for hours about the NBA ratings, in my opinion, on that. But I think the issue with the NBA is larger than just the DEI aspect of it, the diversity and equity inclusion part of it. I think that Charlotte's a small market, Utah's a small market. They're not very good teams. I don't think that I think that the guaranteed contracts and players sitting out 20 games a season is worse for ratings than anything else. I think if you spend hundreds of dollars to go to a game, you should see the best that all those guys are making $48 million, $50 million a year. I think,
I think I've turned on the NBA the other day and I knew like one person on the court.
Yeah, you never know who's going to play on any given night.
And that's why the blue blood rivalry game is big, right? Because a guy like Cooper Flagg gets to play before an American audience that loves college sports and college. And that's why Saturday night is an incredible launching pad for him to America, right? Because we're not trying to attract Europe with college basketball. We're trying to attract Americans to the game of NBA basketball. And that's why I think Cooper Flagg is super important. For him to have a big game is super important. And that wraps up another episode of Blue Blood TV. I want to give a huge thanks to Will, Daryl, for your insights. Big game Saturday. Fans, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, but also don't forget to share the podcast and follow us on all our social media channels. And we'll return next week to break down all the latest news, the games, the Blue Blood rivalry. And as we always say, guys, we out.
We out.
The Blue Blood TV podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, guys, these shows grow when you share them. So we have a great show here. Share them with all your friends. Make them aware of the Blue Blood TV podcast.
Cornbread fan, I'm Bull City cornbread.
It's the North Cat, baby, I'm a boss. Carolina barbecue sauce with the slaw. I'm the safe, the cellar, and the vault. I'm the best, the effect, and the cause, I'm the law. It's the North Cat, baby, I'm a boss. Carolina barbecue sauce with the slaw. I'm the safe, the cellar, and the vault. I'm the best, the effect, and the cause, I'm the law. I'm the truth, man, you looking real false. Whenever I hit the booth, I come out to an applause. If I'm talking to my crew.